welcome to the first and the only GI Game Club for Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare from 2007. Did we all play the right game?
I played the new one.
Oh, no!
How did you get it?
Accidentally. Very exciting. I'm happy to have Game Club back. As you can tell if you're watching the video version of this, a lot of people emailed in. Thank you to everybody that played this game along with us. People sent in amazing emails. There's a couple emails in here. Your head will spin for how specific they are. And anybody who gets specific, mwah, I love you. Just like one focused thing. That is the best Game Club email.
If you want your email read, that's the best way to...
Well, I cherry pick all of them, but when you're getting hundreds of emails and it's like, here's every note from my entire playthrough, it's like, oh, God, this is a nightmare. This is hours and hours and hours and hours.
Are you up late at night reading all these emails? Like, how do you actually read all these emails?
By candlelight.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really difficult. So let's set the table a little bit. 2007's Call of Duty 4, for me, this is a weird gap where I didn't have a console in this generation. Like, I was like peak college, like sophomore year at college, right? And so I didn't buy a PS3 until later on. So I completely skipped this game when it first came out. So this is my first time playing through this game.
Wow.
I assume I'm the only one in this camp?
Yeah.
Yeah, I played it back in the day.
I played it.
Okay. Like, have any of you played it since then?
No.
When the PS4 version came out, I played through the first mission.
Remastered?
Yeah, which is how I ended up playing the game again this time, was the remastered
Yeah,
version.
I did the remaster on PS4.
PS4.
Oh, what about you guys?
I played the remaster.
Remaster
this
on
time.
Xbox One.
Okay. A part of me wishes that I went back and played the original even on 360 or something, because a lot of the time playing through the remastered version was like, this is very impressive. Was this in the original? Like, I had to go back, and it seems like they just, obviously textures, they completely redid those, stuff like that. And then sound design, they also tweaked a fair amount.
Yeah.
Which was one thing that really impressed me with the game. So now I'm in this murky spot of like, what? I know it sounded good in 2007, but I don't know if it sounded this good.
But it's awesome because like that's what a good remaster should do, because like it didn't feel aged, but like it didn't look aged anyway, but like it kind of like held up what your memory of that game was.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Especially his memory.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not a remake. It was just a remaster of the. Yeah. So I mean, like the baseline stuff is the same. Your experience was the same, but it looks sharper.
Yeah,
for sure.
I went up and looked at old pictures because I was like, man, this game looks really good. And I remember it looking really good too, but I'm like, no way it looked this good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it turns out it still looked good back in the day too. But like, I was impressed how not just the visuals look, but like the gameplay holds up still.
Yeah, yeah.
Dive right into it.
Well, yeah. I was planning to set the table a little bit. Here's someone that's very basic though. Like Andrew from Lafayette, Indiana. He says, "Hey, one of the things that first jumped out to me from the get-go was how quickly I was able to jump in with the controls. I haven't put any serious time into a Call of Duty since Black Ops 2, but despite branching into multitudes of different shooters and genres since, I was instantly able to pick up the controller and start playing. Something about how the controls were fluid, responsive, and polished made the game very easy to get back into." That is, I mean, obviously when it's such, a template setter for the entire industry, it is pretty easy to go back to. Like, I noticed it feels a little bit, tiny bit like floatier than like the current, I played a lot of Black Ops 4 and Blackout specifically, and it feels like it's a little bit snappier with that. There's a little more head movement, reactions.
Yeah.
It's a little bit floaty, but not bad at all.
I think jumping over objects works better today. I got hung up on objects trying to like vault over them.
Yeah,
and then I would constantly think I could run and crouch to slide.
Yes, same here.
Which is just like all shooters today. So that I would constantly like run to cover and just crouch right in front of cover and like kind of shimmy my way forward.
The mantling was something where I was like, early on, it was like, okay, I tested out a couple spots. I guess there's no mantling in this game. I was like, oh wait, no, I'm able to mantle through this window. And then up here, but it's just like inconsistent
Very specific
mantling.
places.
Yes, is the weird part that really tripped me up. But other than that, I thought the remaster held up really well. Like to the point of, if this game was just released in 2019, it would score pretty damn well, I think, overall.
Yeah. It felt like a Call of Duty game that could have came out 2 years ago.
Right. Or in 2019 when a Modern Warfare is coming out.
Or 2 years ago.
Well, I'm still curious about like everyone's, like you didn't play it, but like for me, I was still like...
Oh, hang on. This is exactly the email I want for the setup. Nick in Atlanta just says, "Hey, I wanted to ask what this game really means to you. For me, Modern Warfare was a game changer. It's the reason I bought an Xbox 360 and probably the reason I still game today at almost 40 years old. I'm grateful for the friendships I made with the multiplayer, and the story's unforgettable." What does it mean to you guys? What does it mean?
I mean, it was certain, like I played Call of Duty 2, I played those and I just thought they were okay. And I was big in Halo world. Like I was in the camp of Halo. And even when this came out and was getting a lot of hype, I was just like, Like, I mean, I'm sure it's great, guys, but it's no Halo. And then
Well, help me out. Halo 3, was it out at this point?
was
Halo
around
3
the same
came
time,
out
yeah.
around the same time.
Okay.
There's actually a story on GameInformer.com today. You can go and read. Infinity Ward wanted to create a Halo killer before they were given the go-ahead to make a Modern Warfare game. So they actually split into two teams. One team was making a World War II Call of Duty 4. The other one was making a sci-fi game that was specifically designed to compete with Halo. And then they got the go-ahead to do a Modern Warfare game. They all just came back together and worked on that.
Interesting.
Which is funny because their Halo killer didn't have to be sci-fi, but
Exactly.
ultimately Call of Duty 4 kind of did
went
put a
there.
big dent in
Yeah.
Halo, I'd say.
I mean, it outsold it that year.
Yeah.
When
But
you
I was-
combine both SKUs.
The year before this game came out, or it might have been the E3 before, I remember it was, I think, at E3 where Jason West, Vince Zampella were talking to Andy, and they were like, "What do you think, Andy? Do you think we can take Halo? Do you think we can do it?"
really?
Like, and they were like, because that was like they had their eyes set on Halo, and they're like, they were nervous. They didn't think they were going to be as popular as Halo.
I love that when let you get back to your very important point, Kyle. But like, I love it when the public's perception of like, oh, I bet those Call of Duty developers are so mad at Bungie, and there's a real rivalry there. And you know, I could see people be like, oh, everyone's cool, just relax. And then I love learning like, no, it was literally just them not seething, but sitting at their
Yeah.
desk saying like, we've got to crush those guys. You know?
I mean, you forget that like Halo was the one to beat. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it was huge. And the thing that all I was going to say was like, I found myself playing through this game, with constantly being like, all right, that's really cool. Like at the time,
Oh,
like because I
interesting.
was like campaigning for Halo for some reason. I don't know why. Like I just loved
You're a dumb
Halo. I was a
fanboy.
dumb fanboy at the time.
Yeah.
And there were so many moments that we'll get to where I was just like, all right, I got to give it to you guys. That was amazing. I've
Right,
never done
right.
that in a video game.
It's funny. I'm kind of coming at it from a similar perspective. I was in college. I guess it was my junior year, and I was an RA. And I remember I was like really excited for Halo 3. And one of my residents in the dorm across the hall was playing the beta of Modern Warfare. He's like, dude, this is really awesome. This is gonna beat the hell out of Halo. And I'm like, there's no way this beats Halo. Are you kidding me? And then like it came out, and it's like, wow, like everybody's talking about this, and like only a few people are talking about Halo 3.
Yeah.
And it was you saw that shift happen like on campus. It was really cool.
Right. I was trying to put myself back in the mindset of 2007. And so I went back because my love in that era when I didn't have a console was 1UP and the 1UP podcast in general. And so I went back and listened to the GFW radio where they first talked about Call of Duty 4. And it's like, 30 minutes of Sean Elliott talking about Call of Duty 4. Like, this is exactly what I wanted from this expansion. And it was fun just hearing their raw reactions to it overall, right? Where I guess before the game released, but while Sean Elliott was playing it, he posted on a message board, I don't know if it was NeoGAF or what, just that, boy, the AI spawning in this game is pretty dumb and broken. And that like was a huge deal. It was like a huge discussion at the time, was everybody complaining about that and whether he broke embargo by talking about that and how he hates the game and 1UP's going to hate the game and the game sucks because that's the only info that was officially out there other than the beta and whatnot.
Wow.
But then it was also interesting hearing him talk about, just how it's a well-done amusement park ride. And it was, this is from 2007 and they're like, I think in the future, we're going to look back at this game and the Call of Duty campaigns like this and think that, compared to like Dragon's Lair, like in the future, this is going to be laughable and just very formulaic. If you can do these things, but you can't do these things. And that might be true eventually. And I'm sure some people who prefer open worlds in general might say that now. But it's interesting that even in 2019, it's like, it still holds up. People like amusement park rides, dude.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed while I was playing through the campaign is it's like, here's a really cool thing you can do. Like, hey, you can get up in the AC-130 and take out enemies from above.
Cool.
And here's this thing you can do where like you're riding around in a tank, and now here's this. Like, it's just like a constant like curated like just like here's something really
Specific.
like, badass that you're going to be able to do.
Yes, absolutely, which is so crazy. Is it's the overall variety, and specifically then, because I love the Titanfall 2 campaign, but never having played Modern Warfare 1 or 2's campaign, I played 3's, like going back and
the way to do
seeing
it.
this, and it's like, like I feel the Titanfall 2 campaign DNA in this campaign to such a big extent, and because of that constant variety.
It's also crazy thinking like those are two of the greatest shooter campaigns of all time, Modern Warfare 1 and Titanfall 2.
Yeah.
And largely like so many of like the main core people are the same behind those. It's just wild how
does that work?
Yeah. It's like talented people have talent.
Yeah. Just for setting the scene a little bit, in 2007, Nate from Toledo just wrote in like, hey, back in 2007, here were the big new releases. Just for a frame of
Can't
reference here. Assassin's Creed, Mass Effect 1, Bioshock, Rock Band 1, God of War 2. Was that 2007?
Yeah, that came out like while the PS3 was out. It was like one of the last big PS2 games.
Okay.
And then we're getting to the meat and potatoes here. 2 Drake and Josh games, Kim Possible, Global Gemini, Disney's Meet the Robinsons, Pimp My Ride, Evan Almighty, the video game.
What?
Which I did not know existed.
All right.
Sounds like a replay episode.
Absolutely. And Raw Danger, of course. He says, it seems in 2007 there was still a market for TV shows and movies being turned into games, more so than there is now. Yeah, absolutely.
Wasn't that Guitar Hero 3 as well?
I
think that came out alongside
could be.
Rock Band 1.
It was a better era. Ian Williams says, at the time, this was probably one of the first truly next-gen games I had played. Up until 2007, I was still gaming on PS2. When I did get my 360, I had games like Blue Dragon and Tony Hawk's Project 8. The campaign feels like being in an action movie. Games like Halo 3 and BioShock are phenomenal, but they hit much different tones. BioShock being almost a horror survival game, and Halo 3's space and sci-fi aspect making it feel more gamey overall. Do you guys remember feeling that? I feel like a lot of people had that obviously with Call of Duty 2, right?
I mean, that's
Where it
where
felt next gen.
That was like, I feel like the word set piece moments started with Modern Warfare, with 4 Modern Warfare.
Yeah.
Because it is a lot of you like shooting a little bit. Wow, look at that thing that happened. Shooting a little bit. Whoa, I can't believe that happened. You know?
Yeah.
Some of it for me was like super mundane stuff though. Like when you're on the helicopter on that first level and you just look at the rope that you're going down. I'm like, this looks like a real rope. I remember like being mesmerized by the rope.
Look at this rope!
I thought it was really good
honestly.
looking, and it was. And then like there's a scene where you like bomb that tower and the tower falls over. Remember what I'm talking about?
Okay. You're also in a tower later on that tips over. If that's
Oh, it's like a radio tower or something.
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
just
yeah.
like explode.
I think some helicopters crashed too.
And- well, but I know it seems stupid, like just this like tower falling over, but
I'm
like
with
it
you,
looked
man.
really good
Yeah.
back in the day. And I was
Yeah.
like, I've never seen this in a video game before.
Amazing, like they're not physics, but like animation displays of like things collapsing and
Right.
blowing
even beyond
up. Yeah.
that, I mean, going into this, even from the opening, when you leave the building after the obstacle course, it's like there is so much movement in this world. I feel like that is the weird game changer. And people see it as just overall level of polish, but it's just the world is active and
Tanks moving, airplanes
even if it's not
overhead.
reactive, absolutely. And I feel like it keeps up throughout the entire game. Like everywhere you look, things are dynamic in a way that was unprecedented in 2007.
Yeah.
So let's see. Kevin from Bordentown, New Jersey says, hello, I'm excited to dig into Call of Duty 4 and play through the campaign for the first time in 12 years. I noticed the resounding quote on the back of the 360 box. Quote, the most photorealistic video game we've ever seen, from Game Informer. I tried to find the original review on the Game Informer website, but I can't seem to find it anywhere. Are you able to republish the original review? That would be fun. I went back and found it. It's so Adam Biesner, which we should have invited him on this podcast.
Oh, that would've been cool.
I think he's still in Minnesota,
Yeah.
isn't he?
I believe so.
But for the review, he says, I can throw all the superlatives I can think of at the gameplay, but what makes it better than any of the first-person shooters around, ultimately, it comes down to polish. The team at Infinity Ward just gets it. This is simply the best fusion of RPG-style persistent progression and action-oriented first-person gameplay around, and he gave it a perfect 10. And then Matt Burtz did the backup review, and he also gave it a perfect 10, which is wild. But, that quote from Game Informer, it also reminded me of the old cover story, where it says on the cover, the most intense first-person shooter we've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
Which I can believe it. But I read that cover story, and there's a couple interesting beats. Like one of them was that it's such a weird detail to put in the cover story, but I love that Adam did it. I don't know who wrote the cover story. I assume it was Adam.
Probably Adam.
But he said that
You read the whole thing? You didn't look at the byline?
I don't think
We
there was
didn't
a
have
byline.
bylines back then.
Yeah.
Really?
It seems like a terrible idea.
Weird.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I take back my
You
insult.
can ask Andy about that.
Oh, really? He resisted for a long time?
Yeah.
Okay. Love that guy though.
Yeah, he's great.
Champion.
Best boss.
Anyways, but in the cover story, they note that even though it's Call of Duty 4, right? But Call of Duty 3 was made by Treyarch
yeah.
at the time. That they said that during the demo, when they booted the game up on PC, the file was cod3.exe. Infinity Ward just called it Call of Duty 3 internally. And
Oh.
even back then, it was very much that kind of, I don't know if machismo, but kind of like,
Third installment.
they see them as very separate games from separate studios. And I think the outside world sees it as, I don't know, it's all Call of Duty, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
well, they thought they were working on Call of Duty 3 for a long time. They didn't know that other game was in development
What?
until
No.
until
Really?
fairly late in the process. Before it came out, obviously, but they
Yeah.
thought they were working on Call of Duty 3.
Oh, I had no idea. That's
Yeah.
really interesting. You just remember that from the cover story back in the day? Or?
Yeah, I don't remember where, but yeah, I'm talking to Andy or something.
Huh. I also found it interesting because with the new Modern Warfare, which is Game Informer's cover story, gameinformer.com/Modern Warfare, they were talking a lot about, we actually want to show modern warfare and what it's like. And then going back to this old cover story, back then for the original Modern Warfare, they're like, we don't really want to show Modern Warfare because it doesn't work for gameplay. Like Grant, the studio head, he's like, yeah, an IED blowing a tire off and somebody running away isn't Infinity Ward style combat. But that is what Modern Warfare was, especially back in 2007, right? Like, you know, peakish Iraq War, Afghanistan invasion, stuff like that. And so what it has so much DNA from is because they had to push so hard for getting Activision to create a modern game that was separate from World War II. What they needed to do is we need Infinity Ward style combat and like our standard style combat. So we need to build up Russian forces to the point that it's basically the equivalent of the Third Reich just for having a huge army to combat. Because if you're just doing modern warfare and you're fighting insurgents, Infinity Ward doesn't do that style of combat. We don't think it's fun. It's just a weird dynamic, right?
That's another thing that they had problems with moving to Modern War is that talking to the studio on our cover trip, they were like, yeah, we just had no idea how to make like modern locations in this game.
Yeah.
Like they're like, all of our specialties were locked in World War II. So it's like everything we made initially was like James Bond feeling, which was interesting.
They
Yeah.
they still got a few like country farmhouses like in this game.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Which,
like
yeah.
Heat, that level in particular, it's like that might as well be from World War II.
Yeah.
You're still shooting up tanks, which, by the way, the UI on that tank missile launcher, the best. It feels like something from Aliens or something. Maybe it's just clunky military technology, but like the slow, like, and then it shoots out and
And
launches
then
up.
I love watching it like shoot off into the
Yes.
sky, and then
It's
it's
so
such a
good.
long delay too, where you're like, "Is it gonna happen? Is it gonna happen?" And then it comes down and like hits the tank, and you're like, "Yes!"
Well, 'cause
it feels so good.
I wonder if we all had this experience the first time using that weapon. You fire it off, and you're like, "Oh, I guess I missed," because
guess
the
it was
missile
a-
just didn't go straight, and then
it a
it
dud?
comes a few seconds later, and you're like, "Oh, cool."
Oh, no, I knew what was happening.
as well. General gameplay impressions. Should we dive into that?
Sure.
It's tough to
Yeah.
know where to start here when we have so many emails. Thanks again to everybody that wrote in. Podcast@gameformer.com. Okay, Jonah Gomez from Richfield, Washington says, hey, I finally played a proper version of Modern Warfare and I had a great time going through it. I noticed something interesting though. The insurgent forces had multiple down animations. Sometimes they would try and crawl to an ally, pull out a sidearm, or even hold a grenade to try and get you as you pass by. I thought this was interesting because you don't see such a lot of natural feeling variety in down animations in games, especially from that generation. Yeah, the animations really popped me. And that was one where it's like, were these tweaked for the remaster? But I don't believe they were.
I don't think so.
I don't
It
think
is
so.
wild. Yeah, the guy crawling away stood out, and also just little reactions. Like later on in the game, somebody threw a grenade next to Price, and I just stood back and watched. Like, I'm curious how the animation reacts to this. And it didn't blow him up, obviously, but he kind of gave like a whoa and like flew in this incredibly natural way back a little bit. It was like, good God, 2007. Wild animations.
And I was still finding new, like, oh, I just took damage animations from the AI where it was like, I shot him in like the throat and he like started struggling to breathe. And it was like, oh, I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
There was an era where it felt like animations, like death animations, were a big deal. I remember like GoldenEye. I remember the animations in that like being a big deal. And then it felt like the industry slowly transitioned away from that.
Yeah.
a little bit.
Well,
I don't
now
know.
it's-
Or maybe
now it's
it
all
just
physics.
Well, maybe it became harder. You had to like have a physics engine, but like so it's interesting that these stood out.
Yeah.
like as kind of like setting itself apart. It's like, oh, we're gonna go back to that.
Well, if you like people writhing in pain in the death animation, you'll love the
Oh,
new Modern
boy,
Warfare
do
campaign.
I.
Please look forward to it. Darius writes in, he says, hey, Ben, Paul, Grant, Edgar, and Michael. I remember on the lead up.
All right.
I remember on the lead up to Call of Duty 4 coming out, getting really excited after reading about the bullet penetration. It felt like such a huge leap forward toward realism and was used in lots of interesting ways in the campaign, and getting a wall bang kill and multiplayer was always satisfying and hilarious. I can't pinpoint when they dropped it from the series. I know Call of Duty 5 and Modern Warfare 2 had it still at some points, but they stopped that feature, and I'm really glad it's coming back for Modern Warfare 2019. Yeah, that was surprising to me that during the tutorial, it's like, hey, shoot through walls. Like, well, Call of Duty, you can shoot through walls? All right. And then even in the campaign, there's like areas where you have to shoot people out of a window, and it's like, okay, you have to snipe, but they specifically make sure you're sniping through a wall just to remind you that that is a feature in the game. And correct me if I'm wrong, Shay, but didn't they say something on the cover story trip about like how that code was still in the engine and it was just like unused and clipped off from 1,000 years ago? And they're like, oh, let's just turn that functionality back on.
I don't know if it was specifically that.
It was something like that,
Yeah,
though, right?
it was like, I know that's why like so many of the multiplayer maps in Modern Warfare 2019 have metal doors instead of wooden ones, because it's
Right.
just like an advantage, like a weird advantage of like,
Oh,
all right,
interesting.
wooden doors are easier to shoot through.
Yeah, it's a smart idea. Let's see, other things that people noticed. Emmett Watkins did a great job writing it a ton. saying, hey, it's cool that the battle chatter is actually accurate. A number of times I noticed that when I hear a call out for enemies northwest, there are actually enemies northwest. It's a lifesaver. It's so nice to have that radio chatter just to let you know. It was really helpful. Like, hey, enemies on the second floor. And it's like, all right. Or like you're going upstairs and it's like, second floor, there are good guys up there. Third floor, there's 3 baddies to the far room. It's like, okay, I know exactly what I need to know. And it was surprisingly spot on. Like I was expecting it to be more off.
Like a big broad thing about that whole experience of like them talking well while you're part of the team. It really often, for me at least, felt like there's this really smart team of like expert veterans who know exactly what they're doing. And I was just kind of there, like running around. It's like, what do I do, guys? Do you need some help?
Card.
You know, it was almost like they're like, no, you go in that room and shoot that guy. You'll do good.
Right,
you know?
right.
It's like,
Expendable
all right.
Kyle.
That's the that was kind of something that they touched on our trip as well. Is like the like on those coordinated missions where it's like you're supposed to be methodically working through like in formation through a house or something. It's like, how do we train the player to do that and like stay in line? And I mean, I don't know how it's going to play out like in the wild, but like the one mission we saw in Modern Warfare 2019,
which was a video,
is going to very much require you to do that if you want to be successful.
I mean, there were a lot of missions where it was like 2 or 3 guys in front of me walking through a doorway and me just like pushing them, like, go, I'm trying to get in here too, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can
or
I
it's
play?
like, I'm running forward and it's like, no one's following me. Then I go back and it's like, they're all in this room. What are they looking at? Do they want me to go this direction?
Yeah.
But I feel like story-wise, it works out okay, right?
Yeah,
Like I
it's
love the
fine.
idea of
Yeah.
Soap being the rookie in the beginning, and by the end, he's doing very important stuff. But in the beginning, that really blew me away in the first mission, which let's just kick it off here. Nick S. from Marquette, Michigan says, hey, as I was playing through one of the first missions where you're on a ship, I noticed that it really felt like you were on a ship with the waves rocking the ship. I actually started to feel a little bit seasick, which I hadn't really experienced before. And Sutton says, I recently played through the remastered version of Modern Warfare, and I have to say the opening mission is one of the best of all time. Crew expendable. We start with rappelling down into the cargo ship at night during a storm and fighting our way inside to secure a package. Captain Price leading the team. This is followed by an escape of the sinking ship as you traverse the narrow, twisting hallways and have to jump aboard the helicopter at the last second. It really sets the tone for the epic story to come.
Oh yeah.
It's wild because it's like, first of all, Albert Serrano, on veteran difficulty at the bottom of the ship, there's a guy that's holding a Desert Eagle and he's a secret mini boss. Pretty
weird.
sneaky, but I guess it's just
never saw
really
that guy.
challenging. There's this one guy who will just pop you and you'll die over and over again.
It's interesting. I think we talked about it even before you guys headed out for the cover story, where we're like, man, Price is really like an icon for Call of Duty. Why does he stand out so much more than other characters from Call of Duty?
Yeah.
And like just starting that first mission, I very quickly was like, oh yeah, this is the reason like Price is, he's like in your face. Like
Multiple
you get a
times
chance-
in that first mission, he gets really close
Like
to
you
you.
look at him a lot and he looks distinct. And I think that's in part like why he is still like the character that people point to when it comes to Call of Duty, is because like you see him a lot and he talks to you a lot and like he's got a memorable accent. You know?
And the first thing you do on the obstacle course, right, is he comes up and he's like, who's this Muppet? And he's like joking. He's like, oh, this guy has a personality. Okay, ready to go.
And he was in 2 as well, right?
And 3.
Like Call of Duty, like the old World War II ones, which
Oh,
is
is
like
that
weird.
right?
Yeah, so it was weird. I remember like when they announced or they showed him off, I was like, wait a minute, because he was in World War II and now he's this, and he doesn't look any older. Like, he's a different. He's just Price.
He's Paul Rudd.
Price is Price.
Is that facial hair like allowed in the military? I don't know.
It's the Brits.
Price.
They can do what the hell they want.
It's the Brits.
So a lot of people wrote in about him. Ian Williams says, Price's writing is so smart. He's authoritative but approachable, trusting but no nonsense. His look is pretty cool, and the character has some great funny banter with the team. But mostly it's the voice. He said Modern Warfare's voice cast is one of the pillars that make the game so good, with Price probably at the top and being from the UK. I immediately recognized him and Gaz from TV. I grew up on like The Bill and EastEnders.
And they have a different voice actor for Price this time around, right?
That's true.
This is 2019, so we'll see how that works out.
Jack from Nevada has a very good point too. And I think this conveys what's so great about that overall first mission. He says, Captain John Price is beloved because like Solid Snake or Sam Fisher, he represents our ideal, if somewhat implausible, image of what our special forces officers should be. His resolve and commitment to the mission are absolute, and his ability to command some of the most dangerous soldiers is unparalleled, to the point that not a single order is ever remotely questioned because everyone knows Price is making the right call for the greater good. Every single time, no matter how bad the consequences will be for him and his men. He's so calm and collected under fire that I, as the player, felt calmer and more composed because I knew the good captain would never die, no matter how many times he got shot, and that he'd always be there barking out relevant enemy positions and orders at me and actually shooting and killing enemy soldiers, unlike so many useless AI companions. He says, he's just the best. Which I think that's the crazy thing, is that first mission, I was expecting to be the hero going through Call of Duty games, playing some later campaigns. And this one, it's like, yeah, you're sitting back, and there's something so fun. I'm not a huge military fiction guy or anything, but there's something so fun about just seeing a team that is so good.
Yeah.
Like, and they go on without you, and there's clearing out rooms one by one. They're using what I'd imagine is the correct lingo, and just watching like this well-oiled machine move with or without you. Like, they're popping out guys left and right without you. Like, that's so appealing.
There's something in storytelling in general that's just fun, of watching people really good at their job doing it well. Like, that's why heist movies are so much fun, because it's just people coordinating a plan and executing it perfectly. You know?
Yeah.
That's why I love Cooking Mama. That kind of thing.
Great point. Carl Jones writes in and says, why is Captain Price so loved? Honestly, because he's the only one who talks during the game. He also has more backstory than the player's character does with the whole ghillie suit mission and all. The only thing I know about Soap is that he's probably clean.
Has he got a good last name?
Yeah. Let's see. Leah from Northeast also
He's
wrote
slippery.
in. Leah wrote in saying, hey, I had no emotional attachment to any of these characters and would love to see Call of Duty get the Spider-Man treatment in terms of character development. But I'm out of touch with the Call of Duty community. How much do Call of Duty players really care about the campaigns and the overall story?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
I mean, some take it very, very seriously. Like, Price is a hero. Like I compared him to Solid Snake, and I guess I get it.
I was able to follow the story. Like, when I first played it the first time, I don't think I really took away what that story was about, other than like, oh, nukes or something, and I got to stop it. Like, I think I followed it better this time, and I was like, oh, this is actually kind of an interesting, like, political thing going on here.
Yeah. I mean, my trick this time was like going in, I was like, all right, I'm going to pay attention during the loading
Paying
screens.
attention.
I mean,
was
because
key.
when I first played it, I just treated those as like interstitials between levels that I was like,
Right.
okay, it's just loading the game. I'm not going to pay attention. But this time I was like, all right, let me make sure I'm like actually absorbing what they're saying. And
Especially-
it is important stuff
Oh,
happening.
yeah. Like,
between
if you missed that first one where it's like, hey, there's kind of a civil war going on in Russia, which is just one line, as far as I can tell, in one of those where it really drives that home. It's like, if you missed that, I was confused for quite a while. Like, if you paused me at any moment and said, who are you shooting right now? I'd have a tough time telling you. You know, and they have little hints where it's like, are these the good Russians or the bad Russians? Like, okay, there's the ultra-nationalists. I think I got it. But still, there were points where I completely lost the bigger story, but I think it really excels, and maybe it doesn't matter as much because mission to mission, I feel like they're so clear. But like, we are rescuing Nikolai. We are trying to get from here to there because of this. And so when everything is so focused in each mission, larger story, you get it.
Yeah.
Russia is
Bad guy.
being shady.
Nikolai's in hell right now. We're going to walk him out.
Yeah.
That's a good line.
I mean, you say bad guy, but even then it was like, okay, al-Assad. Oh no, I guess he's dead. Now it's this Imran guy. Okay, and then I guess it's after his son, and I guess he's the big bad guy. You know, it's like I didn't really feel that connected to like a central villain because it shifted throughout the game.
They tried to have that twist, and I don't know if it fully worked, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That's something they abandoned with the sequel, right? Where it was like, wasn't it just Makarov in the sequel?
Right, and then Modern Warfare 3 is when you actually take him down, right? Yeah. And also I was
been a
just
while.
thankful, maybe Modern Warfare 2, I think it does this thing, but I was thankful to have just a military story where there's no espionage, there's no backstabbing. I was waiting for like, oh, is this when it's revealed that Griggs is secretly working for the enemies or anything like that? It's like, it's a pretty straightforward, focused, simple story.
You mean Mark Grigsby?
Mark Grigsby, the
You don't like
animator.
backstabbing, or like what's the criticism there? I'm just curious.
I just feel like so many stories. Maybe I just love Mission Impossible too much. But it's like, all right, which character is secretly
There's
gonna
always
be
a double
evil?
agent.
This is
let's
the
see.
one.
Let's see
All
how this is going to work out here. We could go so many directions, but let's stick on story real quick here. Let's see. Dominic Sachoki, friend of the show, says, now that I've played it again, I think it's strange how many people like the game. I don't know what people see in Price. Much of the campaign felt like it did when I played Medal of Honor games as a kid. There are characters, there's dialogue, but it's the filler and flavor that builds up the gameplay. It's a lot of going through levels and shooting people and doing the same old thing until it's not. Well, I disagree. But anyways, he says, and it's in those handful of instances where the game asks players to do something different or gets really political that I think the game really still holds up. This is why people still talk about All Gillied Up. It takes place in a different time. You're doing different things. As for the political angle, it's amazing how much the game gets away with. An opening credit sequence in the eyes of a president of a Middle Eastern nation about to be killed, the nuke going off and killing one of the player characters. I know that 12 years isn't exactly modern anymore, but there are moments here that resonate with the political landscape of today. Summing it up, is this game political as all hell? Yeah, of course. I know it's a hot debate, but it is pretty wild. Like Michael Fulton writes in, says, hey, Call of Duty Modern Warfare came out in 2007 and was set in 2011. I find it interesting that the first part of the game revolves around an uprising in Saudi Arabia that sets into motion the rest of the game. This is odd considering in the real world the Arab Spring occurred in 2011.
Oh, weird.
Yep, that is weird. Also, Vin Sonika says, hey, GI, if there's any aspect of Call of Duty 4 that particularly stands out to me, it's the plot of a fictional civil war between the Russian government and Russian ultranationalists who wish to revert the country back to a Soviet Union state, as well as al-Assad's coup in the Middle East. I guess what strikes me the most is how plausible this could be in real life. This seems like a legitimately believable set of events and one that was excellently written. Let's see. Ethan just says, yeah. Ethan and John Chambers kind of read in with the same thought of just, I forgot how many bombastic, over-the-top moments there are in this on like a political level. He brings up, John Chambers says people were up in arms about white phosphorus being a kill streak and the new Modern Warfare and what that means and all this stuff. And he's like, in this game, everything's pretty grisly. I mean, Death from Above is messed up. Like, it's darker and more disturbing than you remember, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Is Death from Above the one where you're in the plane?
The AC-130, yeah.
That, I don't know if we want to jump into that, but that is the moment in the game where I was like, I think it was the casual chatter that made me uncomfortable. Like when you're in the thick of it and you're like, there's explosions happening, everything around you is crazy. That's like one thing. That's like an action movie. But once you're above overhead and just casually being like, all right, we killed a bunch of guys there. Like I felt kind of gross.
That was my favorite section by far. I thought that was fascinating. Honestly, I think it's some of the best voice acting that ever occurred in 2011. Like I love
real.
their tone. It's incredible.
It feels accurate.
Yeah.
From what little I know about that element of actual warfare.
There are plenty of videos out there that I think
have
that same tone, right? Where it's like, hot damn. Light them up.
Yeah.
And then they're like, this will be good on the highlight reel. Like,
I think,
just that type of
I think they're actually coached to do that, though. Like, because you don't want to get too, like, emotionally, like, high when you're in the middle of, like, a shootout.
That'd be interesting.
Well, that's my understanding, and I could be wrong. But, like, I think that's accurate to, like, what the military wants them to operate like that.
Sure. I also loved when, I think it was Price, would, like, radio in, and you could hear them on the ground. And I wanted them to sound more manic. They do it a little bit, right? Where it's like, all right, we got guys on the left, get down here, fire, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I love that idea of just the super chill AC-130 pilots and crew up there. And then every time you hear just a glimpse of what's happening on the ground, it's like, it is an S show down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was, 2007, this was before, like, I mean, I wasn't aware of, like, drone strikes and, like, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Were you guys, like, in 2007? Like, it feels like that predates this a little bit.
I saw footage like that. Like, that was the thing about that level that was so impressive. I was like, that looks like what I've seen on the news.
Yeah.
You know, like...
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It was
maybe I just
starting to
wasn't
get
aware.
around. Like, in the podcast, GFW, Sean Elliott's, like, a big military nerd guy. And he's like, oh, yeah, you go to, like, militaryfilms.net, and this type of footage is out there, and that's what they're basing it on. But Emmett Watkins writes in there saying, the AC-130 mission feels eerie right now. Now that I've seen so much drone footage from like WikiLeaks and the likes, the ragdolls and the heat vision makes it unsettling. Definitely imagine the new Modern Warfare will have me similarly unsettled.
Well, I mean, on that, like the two guys who came from Naughty Dog to Infinity Ward to work on the new campaign, they specifically referenced this mission as like, we wanted to be like more like down the path this mission went, only like, they said like this kind of gave you like this detached sense of empathy for like the people you're taking out, but they want to go more direct with that. So,
well, I think overall, and this is probably a conclusion statement, but I think that's what's interesting about going back and playing this game is like the standout moments are the ones that are a little bit more unsettling, a little bit more political, if I may say so, right? A little bit just different, off the beaten path, things you wouldn't expect, not when you're running and gunning. Yet it seems like the evolution of the Call of Duty series, and specifically with Modern Warfare 3, it's let's turn this more into an action movie. And like the takeaway is action set pieces. And it's like the takeaway should be bold, weird stuff for a first-person game, right?
Yeah. I mean, those moments like the president sequence.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. Like that was the moment that I was like, I don't think I've ever done anything like this in a video game. Like that is crazy.
what were you riding in the back of the car?
Yeah, and then just the conclusion. Like it blew my mind, you know?
I remember
that one unnerved me, for sure.
Yeah.
Barrett Boswell says, I replayed the remastered version of PS4 and felt the prologue mission where you are the president was more impactful than I remember playing the original. Seeing the chaos erupting as you are riding in the backseat of the car seemed more memorable. I appreciated the fact, too, that during the experience, you have very minimal control of what your character can do, so it makes you feel more like a prisoner. Aaron Cole has a very thoughtful email saying, I can't think of anything smaller to talk about than the random rifle shell hanging from the rearview mirror of the car when you're first driven through the streets of the Middle East to be executed. What was the deal with that thing? Do insurgents or the militia or whatever just drive around with ammunition hanging from the mirror? I don't think I remember a single thing developers added to those streets to show off the chaos of the setting, which I believe was the point of the scene, but I watched that shell swing back and forth the entire way.
Yeah.
That is odd. But back to the AC-130, a lot of people wrote in about it, obviously. Hunter Clement says about that mission, when I played this mission in high school, I thought it was so cool. Then I played it for the game club, and I couldn't help but think about drone operators. They go through PTSD because they're not sure who they've killed, and yet the men in the AC-130 nonchalantly talk about killing Russian combatants. I'm hoping a game can tell the story of these operators who suffer the effects of the battlefield combat without actually being on the field. We also had...
Real quick, I'm by the way, I'm thankful that people felt similarly because like
Yeah.
I don't know, I was like, does something change in me that this is really bugging me now? And,
Right.
and like I'm glad to hear that other people kind of feel in the same way.
Yep, Zach
Do you
wrote
think that
in-
was their intention when they were designing it? Were
That's
they
a great
really wanting
question.
people to
I'm
get
sure it
settled?
was. I mean, I wonder if it was just largely received differently than they expected. If we get him on
maybe.
the podcast in the future talking about Modern Warfare, I'd love to ask him. Zach wrote in saying, yeah, it just made me feel dirty when they said like good kill and they cracked jokes about the lives they'd just taken. In hindsight, though, especially with the sequels in mind, one of the main themes of the series is about how people choose not to value the lives of others. So it makes a lot more sense within that context. But I've grown to really appreciate the level.
So I'm sounding like a real asshole for saying AC-130 was a really cool sequence earlier on, but I totally meant from like a gameplay perspective.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, sicko.
Yeah. All right.
Well, here we got this guy, Matt, wrote in talking about all the things he did in the game and how fun it was. He says, I flew in an AC-130 and I laughed as I smoked the pathetic ground troops scrambling for their lives.
All right.
Did Brian Shea write that?
No, actually, I'm sorry. This is from Matt Burtz's review.
Oh wow. All right.
I'm curious how he would react to that.
Oh, interesting.
He wasn't in today. I was going to ask him about that. But he was talking about all the awesome things. And it's like, laugh. Like, that's the way that was perceived back then.
At the time, it was also, you were kind of just like blown away by everything that was happening in the game. So it was like, you were still sort of thinking about like, oh, that crazy thing happened. Like, I don't know. You approach it from a different perspective on that first playthrough, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
I wonder too, just like video games were very video gamey in 2007. You know, I mean, you were just like, you think of Halo and how like,
Yeah, and those
just,
two
like,
Drake and Josh games.
exactly. Oh man, just how bombastic and cartoony everything was.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so
Right.
you like going into this game back then. I wonder if we brought that into it. Like nothing felt real because it
Yeah.
all felt like a video game. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
think
hear
so.
you. Will Paulette has an interesting point that should be mentioned too. He said the radio chatter in the AC-130 nagged me. It bugged me for reasons, several reasons. One of them was that the dialogue became repetitive really fast, and also the dialogue is really disturbing. But yeah, we should mention that like it is interesting, their tone, but they do repeat things quite a bit in that line. But still, I thought in that scene it was pretty accurate too. For like, okay, we got guys coming on the left. Don't shoot the car. Watch out for the flares. Like everything was very accurate and to the minute.
You think in retrospect this is like more unnerving than like No Russian from 2?
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I think that would be pretty disturbing too.
Yeah, I'm not Brian Shea or anything.
I think it would be tough to top No Russian in terms of like how disturbing it is.
I've been
'cause-
thinking about that because you can definitely see like, okay, they were trying for something, and then in 2 they went further with it with No Russian,
Yeah.
I think. But then I think the reaction to that, they pared back after that, and
Yeah.
maybe that's why they were less, I don't know, political or less like trying to unnerve you.
Maybe. I don't know.
So it seems interesting with the new one. They're definitely like going all in,
Oh boy, are they? Yeah,
going
big
deep
time.
and hard.
They said that we asked about like, is there going to be a nuke moment in this game? And they're like, the entire campaign is a nuke.
Yeah, they were
moment."
like, we keep getting asked that internally, like, oh, what's your No Russian in this game? What's your nuke scene? And they're like, they've just stopped asking because it's like the whole campaign. They're like, there's probably like 8 or 9 moments like that in this campaign, is what they've said.
Hey, you guys want to stay on this disturbing theme for a little bit longer?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
Sit next to Kyle.
All right, I'm
Yeah,
warning you.
on the disturbing front, I got a trophy for killing a dog.
Okay, yeah, we can derail this.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
Sticking on the disturbing
Well, I had
moment.
an email that was the king disturbing, but yeah, what's up with those doggies? Justin S. from Alexandria writes in and says, during my recent playthrough of COD 4, one detail stuck out to me, and it was the attack dog. Even with all the standout campaign moments in this game, the animation of the German shepherds attacking you and going for the jugular is still stuck in my head and made me a bit squeamish.
Yeah.
Did you all have a reaction to those pups?
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to pet the doggy.
I didn't expect so many dogs. It was
I don't remember
ever-present.
them from my first time. Like,
Oh, really?
The biggest like standout of the dogs in Call of Duty for me is World at War's multiplayer, because I remember that was
Oh,
like
sure.
a kill
Send them
perk.
out, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I wonder, you shoot so many dogs in this game. It's like having the dog be the star of the show in Ghost with Riley. Was that Infinity Ward like trying to compensate for that? Or like, no, we're dog lovers. Look, Riley's the coolest, right? We'll do the jaw opening animation over and over again. But even, it's like I loved, and we'll talk about I'll Get It Up in a bit, but I love just that weird moment of like, oh, there's just a wild dog out here. Let's try and sneak around him. And then later on, you see all those dogs in the pool. And so I was like, well, I guess I got to do it. And so I chucked a grenade down in that pool.
No.
It went off. It might have killed like one. But then the awesome part is all the other dogs then ran out. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be like inside. They're going to come around and come eat me alive. But instead they ran out and they ate all the enemies.
Oh,
I was like,
interesting.
oh, thank God. All right, it's cool to actually have the dogs on your side instead of just trying to get them off you for once.
I approached it differently, where I did not interact with them at all, and I left them alone because I'm not a monster.
Me too.
How's that?
Yeah, they still scattered from me though when I left them alone. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they just
So I had to
hung
play
out.
that mission twice because it glitched out on me at the very last sequence. So I had to
really?
play the little escape section from All Gillied Up
I
all over
played
again.
fetch with them.
Really?
I reformed
With
them,
a grenade.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, let's do seriously the disturbing one.
Yes.
And this is
Alright.
going out on a limb here. But
Okay.
Phil S. wrote in just asking, like, hey, do you find some games harder to enjoy or even personally disinteresting because of real-world events? Like, he brought up, like, the entire time he was playing through this for Game Club, he just kept thinking about the shootings in El Paso and Dayton.
Yeah.
Did it cross
Oh.
any of your minds while playing it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it did a lot for me
100%.
too.
Yeah. I mean, you're shooting. Like I can't separate that.
I know it's a tricky subject, but yeah, I think I had somebody in my living room like watching me play for a little bit, and it was like it's unspoken, but like I know this feels gross right now. I know it feels gross to just be like unloading into this enemy horde, right? Even though they're evil Russians.
Yeah, and I mean that. God, if you want to talk about like no Russian again, like different context today than it had back
Yeah.
then. I feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's weird like when it's like ultra gritty and realistic like Modern Warfare is. Like I play Overwatch every single night and never crosses my mind once. But like
Right.
when it's like set up the way these missions are, then yeah, it does kind of it's
Yeah.
omnipresent.
How's your soy milk, by the way, in that bottle? Is
Oh,
that-
it's water.
Oh, cool. Anyway, sorry. Cool YouTube comments. Hey, speaking of it being realistic, Matthew Teese from Blacksburg, Virginia says, for a game that prides itself on being realistic, I found the inclusion of collectibles to be rather strange. I remember the very first time I played the game and didn't even realize they existed until I stumbled across one in one of the last levels. It's just a remnant of this era of gaming, I guess.
It was the laptops, right?
I didn't mind that so much because like I guess it makes sense that you would be going around collecting enemy intel as you're like infiltrating their
So
safe
I didn't even
houses.
get one. They're like laptops?
Yeah. It
I
does.
don't- I got like 7 or 8.
It's like enemy intel or something like that.
Yeah.
It didn't
Okay.
feel out of place. Like they were just like laptops. Like sure, I would have grabbed
and like when
those
you
maybe.
beat the game, like based on how many you've collected, that's like the cheats that you unlock for your second playthrough.
Oh, let's see. An attack corgi, Hunter Clements, is wondering if you have a favorite cheat that you guys used.
Oh, I never.
I didn't really mess around with those.
No,
Actually.
I didn't.
Even at the time, I only played it through once, and I played a
Really?
little bit of multiplayer. But yeah, yeah.
Did you check those out?
No, I didn't. I was reading online. There's one that like replaces everybody's head with a watermelon, though, and that seems very fun. I'm very into that type of
Is
thing.
it really?
I think so. I
Oh,
think that's what I was
weird.
reading.
It's like that GoldenEye approach.
Yeah,
sort of,
yeah.
Donkey
it-
Kong mode.
Yeah.
Are watermelons just like the funnest thing to explode? Because I remember that in like Metal Gear Solid 2.
Yeah.
Like you could
It's
shoot the
got to be a
watermelons.
remnant of Metal Gear Solid 2. Wouldn't you think so? That got the ball rolling,
No, I
the
think
watermelon
people
rolling
like to
downhill?
shoot watermelons.
I think it's just
like
Gallagher.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Gallagher started it.
Honestly,
That's
that could be.
It's head sized. It's got red
Head
stuff inside. of
sized?
it.
Head sized.
I mean,
Yeah, what are you doing?
I don't.
Maybe
Anyways,
your head.
maybe your big head. Anyways, let's just get this last disturbing one out of the way. Alex from Brazil says, howdy, crew. Got to talk about the scene in the mission Shock and Awe where after a daring chopper pilot rescue, the nuke goes off. I was blown away, pun not intended, and reacted much like the infamous Game of Thrones Red Wedding scene. Has any other game or in the series of Call of Duty shocked you in such a jaw-dropping way?
Or Otis.
Do you guys remember your reactions to that?
It was similar to the president moment where
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think I've ever experienced something like this in a video game where like the protagonist that you're playing as, like you see their death from the first person and like crawling out of the helicopter and seeing the mushroom cloud in the distance. It's
awesome.
like insane. Yeah.
Just the idea that you have control. I love that. Where at first I was like, because I've heard about it so much, I don't think I'd ever actually seen it. So I assumed it was just nuke goes off, white flash. Like I had no idea there was going to be, okay, you're going back to rescue this female helicopter pilot.
Yeah.
And then in the meanwhile, your chopper crashes, then you're actually crawling out and looking at it. And I was like, oh, it almost feels like Metal Gear Solid 4, like the hallway, you know?
Also, that whole sequence, I really like the sort of like micro story happening there of like we got to go back. It's dangerous. We know it's dangerous. There is a nuke somewhere, and like I'm so used to stories where or movies or etc. where it's like there's danger. We're gonna go, but we're still gonna be successful despite the danger. And this is like you were not successful despite the danger. Like I don't see that often in any fiction.
And
you know,
like just knowing what happens in that mission going in, like the opening scene where all the helicopters are like flying in, like all heroically,
Looks
like
very
yeah,
cool.
we're gonna get them. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
oh man, it's like when you know. Like the Red Wedding, for example, it's like, oh well, look, there's this wedding
Having a
happening.
party.
And it's like, oh no, just waiting for it to happen.
Right.
You
right.
mentioned that Adam and Bertz did the review for that. They played that in the 4th floor conference room.
Oh, okay.
And there's like, for people who don't know, there's like 2 thin walls between that and the bullpen. And so they were in there, like, they played through the campaign in like one day because it's not super long. But there's one point during the middle of the day when they were just like, whoa! And like they were yelling. And we're like, what the hell's happening? Like, this is crazy. And then I found out later after I played the game that it was that level.
Oh, that's cool.
That
That's
when
a
the
weird
nuke went off,
reaction.
they were like, whoa! Like they were just so surprised that that happened that
That's
they
funny.
both
Yeah, because
screamed.
you've been conditioned by every video game you've ever played that like, oh, the heroes are gonna get away by like the skin of their teeth, but
Right. Well,
Yeah.
that's what I thought too when I played it and he landed and he got up. I was like, oh man, he's going to survive this? This is
Yeah,
crazy. And then
yeah.
you slowly like realize as he's walking, like, oh, he's not.
Well,
going to
he's not,
survive
and
this.
also like the guy next to you can see. I assume he's being affected by radiation or something. It's like this weird internal, like, wow.
Yeah.
the interesting thing from our conversation at Infinity Ward,
Yes,
to
Brian
reference
Shea?
that again, is that the animation team fucking hated that scene. They hated it. Like
that?
Joel Emsley was like, "Oh, well, you get up, right? No, he just dies. Oh, this sucks.
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
garbage." And Mark Grigsby, the animator, had a similar reaction where he was like, "This is stupid. Like, why would I want to play like this game? Like, you can't win."
And so like, we're going to
weird.
make everything really slow. Is that what they did? Yeah. Out of spite?
But yeah, like they were like, "Oh, thankfully, like smarter people knew what they were doing."
Yeah. I want to know who to credit, though. That's the tricky thing. It's like, okay, you could go Jason
Vince.
West, Vincent Pella, Steve Fukuda, I believe his name is, who became the kind of campaign director later on at Respawn. I'm sure he
Could
had a
have
big
been
hand in it.
Mohammed
Einstein?
Alavi.
Albert Einstein. Emmett Williams writes in about that saying, hey, the nuke scene hit me a little harder this time. I knew it was coming, but I started anticipating it way too soon, so it still surprised me. I forgot you're only in range of the blast to save the pilot. Makes it even more tragic. Plus, when you walk out, you can just sit there and watch her writhe in pain as she struggles to breathe. I didn't know that. He says it was incredibly heartbreaking this time around. Maybe I've gained more empathy in the last decade, or maybe the graphical detail is high enough now that I can more easily notice these details, but it really affected me.
Yeah,
be a
like
bit of both.
I made sure to like look at the other people to see how it was affecting them. It wasn't like, oh, they're just dead. It's like, no, they're like going through the same stuff your player character is, which was really tough to watch.
But at the same time, that's tough to watch. But did any of you care that Private Jackson went down?
No, because I don't really think of him as he wasn't a
It's
character.
a zero.
I don't
right?
think I even knew his name at the time.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
that's- yeah, it's
oh,
a-
some character
Yeah,
died.
the people around you I was concerned with, but yeah,
Right.
the character you were playing as, he's not really a character.
Just
so,
irrelevant.
yeah.
Yeah.
You gonna say something? Shane? Okay, going good.
Just the, well, I mean, like looking at the mushroom cloud and the
Yeah.
aftermath was like intense.
And also, I stared at it for a long time. I know I should have put like the Eclipse goggles on or something, but I stared right at that mushroom cloud because I'm like, is that just like a JPEG? Was like, oh no, it's actually moving. Like maybe in the remaster they made it look a lot better, but that and then the 2 missiles taking off later on, it's like that just looks awesome. It looks so great.
Yeah.
Hey, here's a fun one. Ian Williams says, hey, I personally love running the obstacle course at the very start of the game. It was a real thrill learning the optimal route and using the pistol to gain accuracy bonuses. Did you guys like that part?
Yeah.
I remember really liking that part when it first came
I
out.
really like doing the timing
Yeah,
thing. And
yeah.
am I right? Like, it sets your difficulty depending on how slow you go through
Yeah.
that. That's a
Yeah.
really smart
That's what
idea.
I heard, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, the Call of Duty 2, you were throwing potatoes in baskets. Like that was
Oh,
definitely
really?
a lot better. Yeah, I did have that moment where I forgot you're supposed to climb up to start. So it was like it's like, all right, go do the obstacle course. I was like, all right, and then I kind of like walked in and
Yeah,
walked
same
around
here.
it, and I was like, what am I supposed to say? So like from their perspective, I was just this newcomer who's like, all right, I'm gonna go do the obstacle course, and then I just like walked around the thing for like a few minutes.
My name's Soap, by the way. Hope you're cool with that.
For the time, though, it was like a really good, like clever way to do a tutorial
Yeah, I liked
mission.
it.
Yeah.
Like to kind of integrate it into just like the fiction of the world.
And
Yeah.
also be like, oh, this guy really sucks at first-person shooters. He should play on easy.
Yeah.
Ian Williams also says that his favorite moment, and this one stood out to me so much too, is when Gaz falls over while cutting the fence hole.
I wrote that down in my
What
notes
was
too.
that?
Well, yeah, because it stands out because he freezes it. I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. And then instead of pushing it forward, he pulls it out towards him and it like falls on him.
And it's just like this very slow, silent beat of
Yeah.
him like.
yeah, I wrote a note. I was like, he's a military expert. Like, surely that wasn't the correct way to do that.
I know.
But yeah, it stood
panicking.
out. It was weird.
I wondered if it was like an inside joke on the team or like the
Something silly to
animators or
do.
something that like
bet.
one of the animators did something and they just thought it was the funniest thing in the world.
Yeah, I bet, man.
I mean, I like it. It was. I didn't dislike it or anything.
There was a
but it just
lot
stood
more
out.
love for Gaz than I thought. Where it's like, I don't think I even noticed him throughout the game. But everyone's like, oh, Gaz is one of the best too. It's like, what? I guess he didn't
Definitely
really,
more of a price guy myself.
Well,
Is
why
that
was
right?
he cool?
I don't know.
Because the fence fell on him. When
Yeah.
He was, I honestly,
I guess
don't
his
know.
voice, yeah, he had a recognizable voice actor as well. Did you notice like just the amount of cameos that they had with those soldiers? Where one of them was like, Private West or whatever.
It's all Private Emsley.
Oh.
Oh, was there an
Yeah.
Emsley in there? The art director.
Private Dunkelberger.
That's good.
One
There
of
was
my favorites.
There was a Private Paul's Rudd.
Really?
Yeah.
One word.
Yeah,
okay.
Paul's Rudd. Yeah,
Paul's
That's weird.
Rudd.
yeah. He didn't say anything, but he was just in one of those missions. Like, is that name what I think? Okay, sure.
Just an ageless creature.
Yeah,
Seeing as how I referenced him
I
earlier
know,
in this
isn't that
podcast, I
weird?
didn't even notice that.
Yeah, it's super strange. Let's see. Okay, we're saving obviously a biggie, but here we go. Interesting detail. Jeff from Charlton, Massachusetts says the American levels were way more chaotic than I remembered. Other than the maroon hat guys, it was hard to know if I was shooting a friend or a foe. Yeah, that stood up to me as well. I really like that. Just having the British soldiers be so focused and just in their missions, they're professionals.
Small group.
Yeah, and then the first American level, which I believe is Charlie Don't Surf, where you're going up to the TV station.
Yeah.
Like I thought the environment was great, the shootout was great, but it's just like it feels like Team America or something out of the blue. It's like, rah, rah, let's go, wow, Private Jackson. It's
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
holy God, this is chaotic.
And then changing out the music at the end just feels like a very American thing of like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's DJ this radio station a little
Right,
bit.
right. It's fun. It's just so different. I love that jarring tone. But did you guys notice that as well? Like having a tough time deciding who was the enemy here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
shot a lot of my
I
own
relied
guys.
a lot on pulling up the cursor and seeing the name pop
Yeah.
on screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it still took like a half a second before that happened, or before you realize it. And you're like, if you want to be fast, you'd have to start shooting before you like realize who you're shooting at.
Right.
Which bothered me.
Yeah. I love that mission in general. The idea of like going into the TV station felt so different, just that variety again. But I was like, okay, Al Assad is live broadcasting. Like, are we just going to run in on camera and murder this dude? Like, aren't there producers hanging out in here as well? Like, it just seems weird to kick down the door, just fire up the entire TV studio that's currently, they think, broadcasting.
Yeah.
It was weird how many like enemies were showing up in that studio too. I thought it was like,
Yeah.
why are there so many bad guys in here? Like just the whole
Well, it was a
city?
trap, wasn't it?
I mean,
'cause
yeah,
it's a trap.
But
Uh,
again, like
Good,
there's nobody else who works there. It just seems
Yeah.
weird that that's
Yeah.
the only people who were there.
A lot of good explosive paper effects too.
Ooh, Josh Rogers writes in, Kyle.
Cool.
Is there anything more satisfying in an action game than when you're in a firefight and papers, glass, and other debris is flying through the air? That's what I was thinking while shooting through that large room with all the TVs and desks in the broadcast building. The game does those little details a moment in a scene so well that really sell the action. Yeah, that was awesome. And again, I'd like to go back and look at the original versus the remastered version, but just grenades going off and paperwork flying everywhere. It's just because it's so different. You don't expect to see that in a firefight like that.
Yeah.
What mission do you guys like?
All of them.
on.
So we talked about Charlie Don't Surf a little bit.
Yeah.
The bog was actually the first of I saw of the game, and it's the moment where everyone puts on night vision goggles and the laser sights are up, and
Yeah.
you see like I don't know like 30 laser sights like crisscrossing. I think I saw that on like G4
Really?
or something, and that was one of those moments where I was like, I'm Mr. Halo, blah blah blah. And I was like, that looks pretty cool.
Yeah,
You
but
know?
I like to because it's like they should be used to this tech, but because it's a video game and you put on the night vision for the first time, it's like this night vision goggle is awesome. It's making it too easy. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we get
Yeah.
it, we get it.
Also hunted, like I didn't love moving through the farmland and the houses because it just felt closer to like World War II, like Call of Duty 2, which I was
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
excited to get away from that kind of stuff. So I did really like going in at night, playing one level and then coming back during the day because it
Yeah.
really felt like you had been there for a long time and like
Right.
really stuck in there and like held out as long as you could. Which
And
was
this
cool.
is Heat, I think, where you're playing in the
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
So Matthew Theis also wrote in saying I couldn't get past the mission called Heat. specifically the part where you must fight through the entire Russian ultranationalist army to get to the landing zone. This time around, I let my more shooter-literate brother do the mission for me, and he doesn't even know how he beat it. But that really stood out to him.
I did a lot of sprinting.
Yeah, I did too. I was way ahead of everybody, and I look back and like, oh, are they still fighting?
They
And
can handle themselves.
Helicopters landing, and then it felt very rushed of like, oh, I think this is supposed to be like, I'm on my last leg, barely crawling to the copter, and then it opens the doors, and you realize that, oh, finally the two worlds are colliding.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just like, get on the copter. Oh, wait, I guess, okay, those are the American guys? All right, fine.
Yeah.
Did that feel climactic to you guys when the worlds finally collided?
No.
I was expecting more.
Yeah, that especially the first time I played it, I had a lot of trouble with that level, and like I was so frustrated by the time I got to the end. Like I finally did it that I didn't even wasn't even really paying attention to what was happening in the story.
Okay, yeah. They have that light banter later on, again, just during the exposition loading sequence where they're like talking about warm beer, that's gross, and all that stuff. But outside of that, I feel like I wanted more personal interaction. And then I realized at the end, like, oh, yeah, that's right, because there aren't really cutscenes in this game.
Right.
And not saying that it should have them, but it's just that weird thing of like, oh, that's right. It's kind of taking the Half-Life approach outside of these exposition-heavy loading screens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay.
So all gillied up, I really like.
Here we go.
Let's
All
do
right,
it.
we gotta talk about it.
We gotta talk about one of the best Call of Duty
I
levels.
guess we'll do it. Okay, here we go. Jeff from... Oh,
You're playing as Price in that one, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah, and
Okay.
I think that's another reason why people like Price, right? Because he's a leader, as everybody pointed out, but then it's nice to see him almost as a rookie, right? Where he's clearly... McMillan, is that the other guy?
Yeah.
Where he's looking down at him, calling like, bud, I forget what it is,
Yeah.
but some smaller term of affection, right?
Yeah.
And you get to see that like, oh, Price knows what he's doing now because you played through what he did back then and he went through some S, right? Like
Yeah.
it was a tough route.
Did you guys think it was weird that he was like effectively a silent protagonist in that level, even though he has a voice in the game? You're like, oh, but we're gonna stick to this. Like your character doesn't talk.
it didn't
Like,
stick out to me.
It was weird to me.
Yeah.
It felt very like separated from that character because he didn't talk.
Yeah.
I really hope that when you looked down the sight of your sniper, you would get just a quick glimpse of Price's face, like Metroid style, or you just get like a flash of it. But it doesn't work.
Where the voice thing gets more weird is when the different Call of Duty studios later had different approaches. Like I think in Black Ops, the main character talks, but then like for Ghost, like I remember going on a cover story trip and then being like, oh no, for Infinity Ward games, the protagonist doesn't talk. That's just other Call of Duty games. Like, we can't keep this stuff straight, you guys. We can't have different
That's
philosophies like this.
confusing.
Anyways, Jeff from Charlton says Chernobyl, gill it up level. He says Chernobyl level is by far the best level in the game. Even with the dated graphics, the location is haunting. The hotel, the Ferris wheel, and the school all reminded you of the people who lived there and were forced to move out.
Oh God, especially now that the HBO series took off so much.
This is how dumb I am. I had never played this game before. Gillied up, I didn't know it was a flashback, and I didn't know it took place in Chernobyl. I knew it
Really?
was just like, it's a ghillie suit sniper level. That's all I knew going in. So it's like,
cool.
oh, that's so much more interesting than I
So when
even
we were
thought.
talking with Infinity Ward about that level in particular, and they were like, yeah, abandoned locations, and like, were you just like,
I was
oh.
nodding along, hoping no one was going to call me out. Yeah.
You were
Pop
nodding
quiz.
asleep.
What was that location?
I also like that a lot of that level, I guess those two levels you could say, like you're not shooting a lot, especially in the beginning. Like you're just having like a handful of bullets fired and then moving on and like.
And not even moving on, but it's the variety of you're taking your time shooting, taking your time letting guys walk over you over and over again as you fail that over and over again. But then also it's like, okay, now run, right? It's like it's sprinting then for a
it's
little
cool.
bit, right? Or now you're carrying him.
I mean, that's the best part about that level, I think, is like just how slow you go through it, and like it's guided so heavily that it makes you feel like you actually know what you're doing. Like,
Well,
Yeah.
not according to Colin from Woodridge, New
okay.
Jersey.
I
He
stand
says,
corrected.
when the game first came out, I absolutely loved All Gillied Up. I don't know why, but sneaking through the Chernobyl waste felt amazing. Playing through it today, however, I was bored out of my mind.
Oh, man.
Wait, go, hold up, go, get down, go. It was a semi-welcome break from the normal running and gunning, but man, give me some damn freedom next time, will ya?
It's probably just because he'd already played it before, right? Like he'd
Maybe.
already experienced
I mean,
it.
I'd already played it as well, but I really liked it this time.
Yeah,
around.
I mean
Yeah.
the whole sequence of the army like coming over the hill.
It's cool.
well, you just have to like kind of
Yeah, and you have to carefully
slowly
sort of like,
shimmy.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that,
That's
but at the
so
same
cool.
time, I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to be exactly where my commander is, and just like basically was crawling on top of him. I was like, well, I can't fail
didn't
now,
do that.
but then the guards still saw me.
Yeah.
What the hell?
How did that happen?
Because I guess they wouldn't recognize him. They wouldn't register him as
Oh, weird.
a
Well,
detection.
there's two bushes on top of each other now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Writhing like snakes.
The first time it happened, I remember I was watching the tank. I was like, I bet I picked a good spot, and I was watching the tank go by, and I was like facing away from for the army and someone just stepped on me. I was like, oh, okay.
The animations really crack me up too because they're so exaggerated. Like the soldiers are like looking around so much, like they're just walking through a field. They'd be like shooting the ass and talking to each other, you know.
In my memory of it too, I was trying to think like, oh, it's going to be ridiculous. Like you're walking right behind this guy as they look the other way. But playing through it, maybe they do a good job of like putting you in this tunnel. It's like just pay attention to what's in front of you, and like when you're in the moment, it feels like you're really sneaking by dudes. At least for me, like that's how I felt.
Yeah,
I was very
absolutely.
into it.
Forrest Lastman says he didn't enjoy it. It felt like just like a really simple, dumb stealth level. I disagree, Forrest.
I mean, I think that's fair because it is very on rails. Like I think I liked it because it is like almost like a cinematic moment of being like, pulled through this interesting sort of story beat.
Yeah.
But if you really love the shooting in Call of Duty and you just want to like get behind cover and pop dudes, like that's not that level.
Also, what stood out to me so much in that mission was, well, even playing through a majority of the game, especially up until that point, there wasn't that much music, or the music would kick in later on in the mission. That level, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's music from the beginning, and it's like an amazing score, and I think that's also why it has a big impact on people, right? Including then when you get to the environments, you can hear like the echoes of like kids laughing and stuff, like in those abandoned buildings, kind of like a ghost story vibe. Like it's just so different acoustically. But let's talk about this thing. Handsome Jack from New York says the best moment in the game is holding the line as young Captain Price with McMillan at the Ferris wheel. On regular difficulty, at least. Above that, it becomes tedious and way too hard. But setting Claymore mines and hearing them blow up bad guys while you're frantically sniping other bad guys as they pour in like World War Z zombies is still one of my favorite video game levels. Let's see.
Yeah, watching the timer go down.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
And he
it's
says
great.
here you
Yeah.
need to thin their ranks or get overrun or gang charged, as some might say. Then again, what do I know? I'm a Medal of Honor guy, he says.
If you're a Medal of Honor guy, you're basically a Call of Duty guy.
I
at this
think you're
point.
safe.
So
I mean, they're-
are we going to talk? I don't want to step on any toes here, but are
Don't.
we going to talk about the shot?
It's coming up.
Okay.
After this, though, Brian from Gainesville, Florida says, I first jumped on the Call of Duty train with Modern Warfare 2, so it wasn't until recently that I played Modern Warfare using my PlayStation Plus account. I tend to play this franchise in veteran difficulty because I'm a bit of a completionist and regenerating health makes it pretty easy. But that carnival section, man, what a difficulty spike. It took me 2 hours to make it to the chopper.
Wow.
So
That was the toughest part of the game for me, too.
that is where the game glitched out on me, and I had to replay that entire mission.
Oh, really?
So I got to the very end of it, and I died right as like the helicopter was about to pull down, and it was like it just got frozen on like the quote screen, and it's like
that's a
I had to
bummer.
leave, and it was like, and I went back in, and it was like, all right, do you want to like rejoin the mission currently in progress? I was like, hell yeah, I do, and it was like back at like where you're gonna take the shot. I'm like, damn it.
Oh, wow. What was your favorite quote from the game, by the way? It was weird seeing like Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice stuff in there. It's like,
yeah.
oh yeah, 2007. That's right.
the cost of a single Javelin missile, $80,000.
yeah, where it's like, who said that? Albert Einstein?
Also, yeah, well, it also is like
Paul Rudd.
we spent a lot of money on this stuff.
It is weird just to throw in factoids
Yeah.
like that. It's like, I understand tips, I understand war quotes, and then just like, by the way, this stuff is expensive. AC-130 is like a gazillion
Yeah,
dollars
yeah.
or whatever.
Did you guys like that shootout though at the Ferris wheel?
I did.
Yeah,
I
I
loved
liked it,
when I
yeah.
found out that I could shoot the enemies as they're coming down the ropes from the helicopters. Like, so like waiting there and like bam,
That's fun.
bam, bam, and they all just fall. That was very satisfying.
Yeah, for some, maybe I'm just a dissenting opinion, but like I could have done away with that part and been happier. Like everything else about that level, like the sneaking in, the shot, like all that stuff, I like, but the end part of it just feels like, oh, okay, well, you've been not shooting things for a long time. You got to shoot stuff.
I
still-
see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I liked just how different it was. I liked the idea of McMillan, like, put me somewhere so I can help out, and the fact you get
It's like
to
a
see him.
sentry
and his-
turret.
Yeah, he does an amazing job of helping you take out those guys. But where I was frustrated is, I think it was the first time I played it. Like, I made it to the chopper, and then I think it was it somebody else or was it myself? But I just yelled out like, "Where's McMillan?" You hear that, and I was like, "Oh crap! I have to go get that guy." Went and got him. Went in there, was sitting down, and then it faded to black. You did not. You ran out of time.
Oh, what? Oh,
I was like, I'm in the chopper, man.
Yeah,
I'm
that
sitting down right now. Give me this win. Okay. Emmett Watkins says, I'm sure I'm the only one going for them, but the trophy list for the game really encourages playing within the boundaries of the game to see what happens. This is for the remastered version, I'm assuming. In All Gillied Up, you can assassinate the antagonist from Modern Warfare 3 in a background car, therefore
Really?
breaking continuity. Also, despite it being a stealth mission, you can still alert the passing helicopter to your position and actually take it out thanks to a hidden weapon cache. Both these little quirks and more are rewarded in the trophy list.
That's cool.
Interesting.
I like that a lot.
That's crazy that he's... so with the remaster, they probably added the Modern Warfare 3 villain, right? to the car? Or you think
That's
he's
a
in
good
there?
question. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably didn't. Yeah, they probably weren't thinking
I don't
about it when
think
they
they-
first made the game.
Like, I don't think they like overhauled the game that much. Like that
Maybe.
seems like more than they would have done. But that's really cool. I like that.
I was confused. I missed a lot of shots. And then it's like, oh, I finally hit him in the arm. Great. And then later on, it's like, oh, he's missing the arm. So does it dial it in so no matter what, you hit him in the arm?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that they do that a little bit by like watch the wind, watch the flag.
Yeah.
So like you don't really know if you fully got because like I remember when I played it back in the day, I had the cursor like on his head. I was so certain. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Well, that's weird. And then it became apparent that I was like, oh, that's story. Like that was supposed to
And then
happen.
the final cutscene was him like without a head, just like walking up like the headless horseman.
Yeah, that's right.
I missed that shot many times.
Yeah.
And then I finally got it on the first try on one of my playthroughs, and I recorded that footage. I was very proud.
That's I'm not like a great first person shooter, but back then and even this time, I got it on my first try. I don't know if I was just taking longer.
I don't know how I'm so good at this.
Well, like
Somebody stop
I'm not
me.
bragging because like I'm not good at sniping and shooters in general. It's like not my best genre. So I don't know if it's just because I took so much time to line up the shot. Like I really let the sort of cutscene play out pretty
Yeah.
long. So
I took so long the first time I did it that he left.
Well, I can't think of anything else to
Yeah, I
talk
guess.
about here.
Should we go to his home now? Should we?
It's another mission. We just sneak around his home.
Yeah.
there actually one moment real quick back up before all gillied up. The moment where you're trying to interrogate the guy.
Yeah.
And he gets the cell phone call.
Yeah.
And I liked the sort of like compactness of the story and like just Price being an expert at what he does of being like, I know who that voice is. I don't need anything else from this guy.
Bam.
Like, I just love how quick that is.
I was
you know?
amazed that so much that is blacked out. It's a good reminder of what you can get away with in video games, which is like fades to black. You hear Price beating the hell out of this guy, and it's for quite a while. Then it fades back in.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, that confused me. I was like, is this to save on animation costs? Like,
That's
I
what I
couldn't
was
figure
thinking.
out what because
or
nowhere
just
else in the
gore,
game
maybe.
they do this.
Yeah, maybe the ESRB made them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know what happened there because I
Yeah.
feel like they maybe had something and they cut it.
Yeah, I'm curious too. But with the snipe here, Jacob from Buffalo, New York says, "Hey there, this isn't just an observation annoyance that has bothered me for years. But you said you wanted a deep dive, so here we go. At the apex moment of All Gillied Up, when you take the long shot at the antagonist with the 50 cal, I've always been annoyed at Captain Macmillan's rather flippant use of the Coriolis effect and needing to take it into account at a sniping distance. The Coriolis effect is something which is compensating for the Earth's rotation, is something that very long-range flights need to think about. They will need to use more fuel than standard mileage might suggest because the flight is pushing against the rotation of the Earth, therefore traveling a further distance. A commercial flight travels at approximately 500 miles an hour, while the muzzle velocity of the weapon All Gillied Up, the 50 cal is approximately 850 meters per second, which is about 4 times the speed of an airliner. The maximum range of the M82 or 2000M is approximately blah, 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 blah. Basically, he says he maps out the geography, every detail about this, and says, that being said, I love the ballistics model and how it actually responds to the wind, elevation, and variant humidity. But he says that it does not make sense that the Coriolis effect would be
Hey
brought
man,
up
this
in
is like the
situation.
early '90s when
Interesting.
this sequence takes place. They didn't know that.
They didn't.
Yeah, science is different now.
I still thought the Earth
You're
was
right.
flat back then.
That's true. Here we go. Carl Jones says, my favorite moment in the game must be when the two nukes launch in the distance towards the end of the game and you realize that it just got pretty real. That the nukes have wheels. In that same light of thought, during the cutscene of when the nukes are traveling through space and it's giving the player their information, the warheads are labeled as being individually 550 kilotons. This may seem like a lot, but it's actually not. During the height of our nuclear testing back in the 50s, the U.S. tested a 15 megaton bomb called Castle Bravo. Castle Bravo is 30 times more powerful than the individual warheads used in the game.
All right.
Huh.
Military nerds, military
That's
kinda cool,
nerds.
actually.
Interesting,
I
yeah.
love it, man. Yeah, I love that sequence. I didn't expect those nukes to go off, and I love that.
So
it
those
happens
nukes really
often.
wouldn't have done that much damage. Is what he's saying?
Yeah, it's like a
they're
light
just kinda
tickle to DC, I believe.
Tiny, like bonk.
Uh-huh. It is still that weird idea that in that pivotal moment they let Soap handle that. Like, put in the code, Soap, rookie who just could barely get through an obstacle course. Like, you got this,
I
right?
thought that was funny too because I was lost for some reason. I was like, where am I supposed to go?
Yeah.
And they're like waiting like
There's no time.
2 minutes for like Soap, get over here and do this. Like, meanwhile, there's
Pointing at
another
it.
guy right next to the computer.
Yeah.
That also that had the moment where the door starts opening.
Yeah.
I really like that where like Bryce is like, can we speed this up at all?
Yeah.
You know, I thought that was really funny.
And it's like, is it loading or is it just for the sake of a joke, because I think those few jokes in
know.
the end, especially with Griggs, I think work out pretty well, right?
Yeah.
Except for when Imran's son or whatever like shoots himself.
I think I have the quote.
What does he say?
Say, shit, this kid's got some issues.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
buddy.
All right.
All right, buddy.
All right.
That level's. I like that level a lot, by the way.
You're chasing? Yeah.
that
because I like that you don't
was
even
cool.
see him, and you're just getting the call out of like, okay, go this way, go this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the keyboard thing, real fast, Michael Fulton says the keyboard that Soap uses to disarm the missiles at the end of the game is a standard QWERTY keyboard for the English language. Russian has an entirely different alphabet, and I can't think of a good reason that this keyboard would be in a Soviet-era missile base.
Take that, Infinity Ward.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
exactly. Do your research, you cowards.
Yeah.
Type in "stop the missiles" in there or something.
Yeah, I guess so. Will Paulette also says the final mission with the car chase feels like it's straight out of James Bond, and it kind of kills the whole hardcore military vibe that the game has going up until that point.
That felt like a Halo ending to me.
Oh, interesting.
I got,
First-person shooter campaign, got to have the last level be in a vehicle. you know?
Yeah.
I got Metal Gear vibes out of that.
Metal Gear Solid 1.
Gear
Yeah,
Solid,
I'm
yeah,
used to,
absolutely.
Like the Metal Gear
And 3
chasing,
as
yeah.
well.
Yeah,
Which taught me what a Halo jump was for the ultimatum levels.
Yeah,
So I was
that's
like,
true.
I don't need any background on this. I'm ready.
Carmine Severies writes in just talking about how Modern Warfare 3 turned the series into an action film, and talking also about like the end of the game and how that kind of gets that ball rolling, where it just feels like a different tone. Even it was the first time they had slow-mo, right? Like Sidney Cox says, my favorite moment is the final minutes when Price slides you his gun, you take out Zakhaev and his goons. Also can't wait for the full Final Fantasy VII Remake Game Club in 2030. Yeah, that'll be fun.
The funny thing about that slow motion sequence, which is very cool, is like they realized in time for Modern Warfare 2, they're like, oh, we can do this the whole campaign. This doesn't have to be a
Let's just do it
finale
everywhere.
thing.
I seriously had the thought of towards the end of the campaign, I was like, there hasn't been one burst through a door slow motion sequence. Like, what is the
Yeah.
origin of that? When is that
I
coming?
think
It's
it's
like, turns out.
Modern
Yeah.
Warfare 2, right? Was
Okay.
the first one
Well,
to
that's
do
when
it?
they
Well,
do
this-
the burst through the door. But
Right,
Yeah.
for this one with that. Emmett Watkins says, the first time I played through this game, my biggest criticism is that the ending just kind of happened. I didn't feel like there was much lead up to killing the bad guy. You just get caught up in an admittedly neat car chase and end up running into him. Just like the first time, despite the many cool moments in the campaign, I'm feeling this was it. Crazy they later would make Modern Warfare 3, which had an infinitely more satisfying ending with the big showdown on the roof and all that
It is
stuff.
weird that the bad guy shows up there at the end and he's like, wait, why is he exposing himself to shoot us? Like,
Right.
is it really that personal?
Why
Why
was
does
he
he look
there?
like John Malkovich? It's an odd vibe overall.
It's weird that Price yelled that at you. Get Malkovich.
Yeah, that
guy."
was weird. Surely you weren't serious.
Oh, we'll talk about Shirley in a
Malka,
bit.
stick this up your...
Kyle, you want to talk about Shirley?
Yeah, for the Mile High Club. there's
What was that?
Okay, so my understanding of what that is it is meant to, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but even at the time when that came out, that was my reaction. I worked at GameStop, and I remember going in and talking to customers and my coworkers and being like, "What was that level? What did that have to do with anything?"
Yeah.
And my understanding was that it is like on the higher difficulties, it is one of the most challenging levels in the whole game, and it's there explicitly for that purpose. Like, this is really hard. See if you can beat this.
Well, Justin from Alexandria seems to know what you're going to say, Kyle. And he says, I did it. I couldn't do it back in 2007, but here we are nearly 12 years later, and I finally got the infamous Mile High Club achievement. This achievement requires you to beat that last mission in less than a minute on veteran difficulty.
Oof.
Yeah.
Huh.
Also, the completion percentage for that on 360 is 3%.
Wow.
So it's just a challenge thing? Does it
think
tie into
so.
Modern Warfare 2's story?
I don't think so. I could be
What
wrong about
is
that.
Well, I wonder if it was like a level they were prototyping and
Maybe.
that in the campaign that got cut, but then it was close enough to finish that they just tacked it on to
could
the
be.
end.
I mean, it's a cool level,
It is super
like
cool.
being
yeah.
up in the plane and like cramped quarters and stuff. But it's a weird. It's a post credit sequence. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Kyle,
very weird.
how do you know this? Chase from Oregon writes in and says, I just finished Modern Warfare this weekend and a thought occurred to me. Why don't more games have post-credits missions? Mile High Club is one of my favorite missions in the game. I remember it being a really nice surprise when I first beat the game over 10 years ago. Movies do this. Why don't more games?
There's also the sort of the loading screen talk before that level. I don't know the exact wording, but Price says something along the lines of "Don't call me Shirley."
Well, yeah, it's because they play... Well, because of the rap, right? They play we're going
the
deep
rap.
and we're going hard.
With sound clips from like E3
Yeah.
shows. and
Yes,
stuff.
exactly.
So weird.
Yeah, and so then because of that, Price says, or somebody says, surely you can't be serious. He says, I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
Which is that meant to be like a reference to the film Airplane?
Because
And
you're
then-
about to go on an airplane?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I guess so.
guess.
What else would it be?
I don't know.
I don't know what that
literally
was.
the-
Oh, that's what that line is from Airplane, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh gosh. Okay.
And then Kate
Now
Onder.
you like that level.
Yeah. Oh, that's my favorite line.
Kid Ondor says, "Hey, real topic. What the hell's up with that rap song laid over the end credits? It reminds me of Mickey Rourke rap at the end of Rogue Warrior or a Will Smith movie rap."
Oh, I
There's
can
an
see that.
answer to that on GameInformer.com/Modern Warfare.
Yeah, in the rapid fire interview, we talked to Mark Grigsby, who's now the lead animator, was an animator back then, and he also plays the character Griggs in the game.
And
Yes,
what else does he do in that game?
raps.
He raps.
Oh, he's
Yeah,
the guy who
bro,
wrote the
I'm
rap.
obviously
he
going
wrote
there.
and performed the rap.
Right, and he's like, "Oh, I was just messing around," and then I figured, yeah, why not? And we asked him if he's going to make a rap for the new one. And he said, "I'm just trying to finish the game. I have some ideas floating around, but I'm not locked in on it yet."
Basically, if he has time,
yeah.
he's going
It
to.
is. I don't like it. Like, because I feel like the game is very serious up to that
Yeah.
point. I mean, there's little jokes here and there, but like it ends on sort of a dark note of like murdering this guy, and then cut to black, and like sort of what feels kind of like a fun but like silly rap song, like explaining what the game was. It
Rhyme,
feels a little
divine,
strange.
yeah.
But
That's
the
the
go deep,
lyrics.
go deep, go hard was something that they said at the E3 press
Right.
conference.
Yes.
Which was like a big inside joke at the studio.
Well, it
apparently.
wasn't on the teleprompter. He just like went off script, and then like
I
his
guess
words
so.
got jumbled, and then like the team thought it was really funny.
Yes.
And so it became a big inside joke, and they made shirts like "Go deep, go hard."
Right. It's
interesting.
It's good stuff. And we asked Grigsby if he's going to be in the new game. If Griggs is going to be in the new game, and he's like, I can't voice him. There's like, a SAG-AFTRA or whatever, weird guild reasons. What's the word I'm looking for?
I got it.
Union?
Actors Guilds.
Union, yeah, all that stuff. But I'd be surprised if they didn't have some reference to a Griggs in that new game. Do you think any other characters would be coming back?
Price.
Well,
So-
Price is obviously coming back. I think at some point Soap will come through, or like they'll have
Some
like
sort of
there's-
reference to him.
Yeah, they have like the Kyle character with the Alex character. At some point, they're gonna like reveal that their nickname is Soap, kind of like Robin at the end of Dark Knight
Ugh.
Oh, yeah.
Rises or something.
Maybe Private Dunkelberger will be back.
Yeah,
Was
Paul's
it-
Rudd.
Was it 2 when
Actually voiced by Paul Rudd.
when Ghost showed up, the guy with like the skull mask?
Yes.
That was 2, right?
Yes, I
But do you
believe
think
so.
they
Yeah.
would like bring him back?
I
Like,
bet
'cause
they
people
would.
really seem to like him.
Yeah, for sure.
That'll be for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. They'll bring him back.
A lot of people love it. Emmett Watkins also wrote in saying, "Hey, the game is a lot less linear than I recalled. Missions here feel like they're maps with objectives rather than scripted levels or corridors like Halo 1. Take that, Kyle.
Shots fired, Kyle.
Yeah, that's
fair.
What do you think of that? Yeah, I guess a lot of people were saying it's still pretty linear, but I think the variety was enough. I wasn't really
it's still
annoyed
fun.
by going down.
Linearity is not really a bad word to me if it's executed well.
Sure. A lot of people wrote in. Jacob from Raleigh, Josh Smith, Justin Pagowski talking about enemy AI and just the spawning. Since that was a big discussion back in the day, did you guys notice that? Was that a big issue for you? Was just noticing that like, oh, there's these infinite spawn points? Because I didn't really notice it.
Well, are there infinite spawn points?
That's what, yeah, that's the idea. If you don't clear a certain point or like walk past a certain point, enemies will just keep coming. But I never really hit that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did notice where it's like, man, there's a lot of guys coming out. It feels like more than there should be. Like
Yeah.
a couple points, but I never it never felt infinite. It
I
just
feel-
felt like they keep coming. There's a monster closet somewhere.
Yeah.
I feel like it was more well managed than World at War's campaign. I don't know if you ever played World at War's campaign, but at the end there is like this stairway you have to get up, and there's just enemies constantly flooding towards you. And like I remember, I was just like, they're just not going to stop coming.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the thing for me is like at the time, because of Call of Duty 2, which is way, way worse about it, like this felt like an improvement. So I was perfectly satisfied with it.
Right. Let's see. Chris Reichert played it on Veteran. He said it was really satisfying, but incredibly challenging. A lot of people actually were playing on Veteran. Thank you for writing in. And congratulations, everybody. Omar. Omar wrote in and says first. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Cade who also says, I wanted to ask, did anybody else beat this game on Veteran? I did it twice and I'll never do it again. It was miserable. The mission where you have to escape back to the chopper after killing Al-Assad at his farm safe house is wildly rage-inducing. No, we're cowards. Omar Sluman wrote in saying, I noticed in the prologue of Call of Duty 4 that the original had better Arabic voice acting than the remastered. They redid the Arabic, and he said the
interesting.
original was better.
That's
He
interesting.
speaks Arabic, yeah.
Huh.
Random trivia facts from Thomasville, Georgia.
Love it.
He says, I didn't collect these myself. I pulled them from IMDb or the Call of Duty wiki. Let's see. Apparently, on the final mission, Gaz shouts out, "Stop the bloody truck!" But he's the one driving. In All Gillied Up, Captain Price states that the mission is a decade after the Chernobyl disaster, making it set in 1996. All Gillied Up is 15 years in the past, so that means that the game is set in 2011. It's fun math. It's the first Call of Duty game that was rated M, and it was banned in Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates.
That's wild to me that the ones in World War II weren't M.
Yeah. Well, World at War was like the bloodiest, right? And so that was after
And
this.
that wasn't... Oh, that was after that.
Yeah. It was the one right after, right?
The one with flamthrowers or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
That one had some brutal moments.
Brutal
sure.
moments.
So did this one.
That's true. Are you guys ready for the best emails?
Yeah.
Nick O wrote in, said, for this game club, I decided to shake things up a little bit. I opted to take a look at the Nintendo DS version of Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare.
Nice.
The game was developed by N-Space, who made the DS ports of GoldenEye and Star Wars Force Unleashed. And I won't sugarcoat it. This version of the game is a steaming garbage factory from which there is no escape. I couldn't find the Game Informer review, but I'm very curious to hear what the score was. I'm sure by 2007 standards, it was a neat touch-based version of the game, but good God, playing it over the past 2 weeks has been agonizing.
That's hilarious.
The AI is worthless. Instead of Price sliding the pistol to you and you get to take out Zakhev during the finale, you just waltz around the bridge, shoot a couple enemies, and then a helicopter comes to save you and your companions who are stuck in a T-pose, as they inevitably are at the end of every mission. I understand there are technical limitations, but you should check out the game on replay.
Wait,
we
so-
tried doing a replay of that game, and it was so bad that we did not air it.
It's still like a first-person shooter?
Yep.
I freelance.
that's wild.
I freelance reviewed the DS version of Black Ops.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Wow.
I played with the stylus and yeah.
Remember Black Ops Declassified on Vita? Remember the S show that was?
Yeah.
No one talks about that. Also, Travis from Scottsdale, Arizona says, I love that the Game Club is back, and it's the first one I've written in for. I'm sure you guys are getting a ton of emails, so I'll try to keep this short. While I read the article on GameInformer.com for the Game Club, it reminded me that Call of Duty 4 has a DS version, and I decided to play that one.
Oh, really?
Two people played the
That's
DS
awesome.
version. Here's a quick rundown. First and perhaps most importantly, the campaign has nothing to do with the story of the console version. It is just a bunch of generic COD missions thrown together. No Captain Price, no All Gillied Up, nothing.
But you still kill
The other guy,
Zakharov?
I guess so. The other guy said that Price slides you the pistol, but maybe that's different.
No, he said he
No,
doesn't.
he doesn't.
You just,
Oh,
like,
yeah,
walk
you're right. You're
around
right.
and-
Yeah. He says, I don't have a ton of thoughts about it, but the controls were interesting. Outside of moving and shooting, the touchpad did everything. The face buttons and the D-pad both controlled movements. You could play with your preferred hand. It's only about 3 to 4 hours long, so it's worth checking out just to see how a COD
Is it?
experience feels on DS. Thanks for reading. I can't wait for the next Game Club. Thank you. Everybody that wrote in to podcast@GameInformer.com, heroes. I think it's our most emails ever for a Game
Really?
Club. Yeah.
Wow.
This is really taking off.
Other thoughts that we haven't conveyed about it? I guess, did you guys enjoy the game?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Better, worse than you remembered?
More affecting than I remembered. And I think it's just because of the modern day and where I am just emotionally and personally as a
So,
human being.
okay.
Like in the past, it was definitely just like a fun action romp, but I felt worse about like I felt like a bad person sometimes playing this game.
Right, and not just because, you're playing a shooter in 2090. It's specifically because of the bold strokes that they took.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And it's not even necessarily like a knock against the game. It's just I just had a different emotional experience playing it this time than I did in the past.
Right. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Kyle, Reeves, you enjoyed it?
Yeah, I still liked it. I think I liked it less than I did the first time. And I don't know, I couldn't quite pinpoint what that was. I think it's just like the industry has kind of like moved on. Things like Uncharted have like taken that sort of bombastic, crazy, like set piece stuff to new levels.
Yeah.
But I still thought it held up better than I thought it was going to.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I had a pretty good time going through it. I agree that it holds up really well. I think that AC-130 mission is the most fascinating thing in there, over and above the nuke. That part was much more riveting, even after hearing about it for so many years. Like, that tone was just bizarre. Brian Shea?
I overall liked it. I think there are moments where I was like, oh yeah, level design has moved beyond this.
Yeah.
But not that many for me.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
I was struck most by like how modern it still feels. Like it's not like, oh, this is a relic from the past, like Halo 1 feels like.
Right.
Shut your mouth.
That's it. Thanks to everybody that participated in Game Club. If you like this, you can subscribe to the Game Informer Show podcast or follow us on YouTube. You know, we also have an audio version, whichever you prefer. We'll do one in the future, by God. Somebody wrote in a while ago saying we should do Jedi Fallen Order, and that seems like a pretty good
That
contender.
seems good.
And that's coming out sooner than you think, so we'll see if we can squeeze in anything else between that. I want to do Spec Ops The Line. But we'll see. Maybe everybody's militaried out after this big old discussion. But that's it for this overall episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. Be sure to tune in next Thursday, and we'll have a new episode for you. Stay frosty!
Bye.